Welcome back to A Life of Hobbies, everybody. It's the weekend, and we have a new episode of our bucket garden. Today I'm going to be talking to you guys about some little garden tips and tricks here. And we're going to be talking about tomatoes, peppers, and cucumbers specifically. One of the first things we're going to cover here this morning is the tomatoes. And when you're growing tomatoes, they love to shoot off suckers and expand their plant domain. If you want a really productive plant, you're going to clip those suckers off and let the plant grow on the main, and anything that's coming off the main that isn't main needs to come off because, you know, it's a sucker. But those suckers don't have to just get tossed in your compost pit. You can replant them and grow a whole new plant that will be every bit as productive as the main plant and give you a little bit more produce at the end of your season. So we're going to talk about tomatoes first, and then we're going to talk about what we can do with pepper plants to help produce and boost their productivity. And then we'll do a little bit of cucumbers and show you guys what we got going on over there and how to make your cucumbers more productive than they've ever been. So let's go ahead and get into it. We're also going to talk about when you clip these tomatoes off, you can replant them, and we're going to show you guys that. You can see my bucket right over there and a little smaller bucket on top, and we'll show you exactly what those look like after about a week or two once they've been transplanted. So let's go ahead and get into this here. I do apologize that I've only got this small camera mount. I need to get a taller tripod at some point. And I do all of this on my phone, so I don't have a big professional rig set up or anything. I'm literally just using my cell phone. Alright, so the first thing we're going to talk about is the suckers and pruning your tomato plants. Alright, so what you'll notice, and this is a great example of it right here, as this plant comes up, we've got our first leaf stem out, right? And in the crook, or in the crotch, you can see a branch coming out. That's a sucker. You really don't want these, as these will inhibit and reduce the overall productivity of the main plant. And you will get something off of this while it's attached, but if you really want to make it more productive, cut this out right here at the crotch, and you'll take and trim off the leaves if you want to transplant it all the way up to the top crown, and then bury it deep. Now this one I'm not going to save. There's one over here that I am going to save and transplant, so I'm just going to cut that one off. That one's going in my compost. When you get leaves that start to brown, for the most part, I usually just cut that branch off. That's dead, diseased leaf. I don't want it spreading to the rest of the plant, so we'll just take that branch completely off. And over here you see where we got these little ones here coming up. That's there was a bigger one here. I took that one out like a week or so ago. A new one's growing in, so you just want to pop those little guys off. And they grow pretty quick. You just pop them out. If they get bigger, you might have to cut them out because they become a little more tougher to pop. But just clean those up and your plant will do great. As you can see, we've already got lots of tomatoes coming in. These varieties are doing really great here. But I want to show you guys what to do if you're going to transplant these. Alright, so I've got my little pot, and I've got my targets over there. It's a really big sucker. I let it go just for the purpose of this video, and I almost trimmed it out last week. And I was like, well, you know what, we should talk about that, and I let it go, and it's huge now. A whole week later, it's gotten gigantic. So let me go ahead and clip that guy out. I'll bring him over, and we'll pot him up real quick. I'll show you guys what to do. Alright. Look at the size of this guy. It's huge. He's gigantic. Look how thick that is. We're going to take off these bottom leaves. We're going to take off that one too. Now if you look on the plant, you can see all those little tiny hairs. Those are not hairs, those are roots. Alright? And as soon as all of these little roots, you can see them there, as soon as all those little hairs touch soil, they start to grow into roots. And the idea here is that we're going to plant this all the way up to its crown. I'm going to take these little flower bunch off because we don't want it flowering yet. And leaving just the last leaf branch and the crown, this thing is going to turn into a full-fledged plant in no time. And I've got a few examples from 2 weeks ago where I did this, and you can see just how quickly they grow. we're going to take this, we're going to stick it down in our pot. Now the soil I've got here, this is all compost, straight out of my compost pit. And we're just going to literally fill this pot in. Now this stem is touching all the way at the bottom. And we're just going to pack in the dirt around it. Once we've packed in the dirt around it, we need to water it, and water it well. You really want to get this thing soaked, because that water and soil combination is going to trigger those roots to start growing very rapidly. Like I said, this is all compost. There really isn't any actual original God's-given dirt in this mix. This is all stuff that we produce from our yard waste and our garden cleanup and fall cleanups with leaves and sticks and everything else. So it's just pure compost. There's like no dirt in here at all. But all that compost eventually becomes dirt over time. Both from the plants processing it, the chemical exchange between the microbes and other stuff in here. Alright, so there we go. We got our tomato planted. We're going to plant this right up to the rim here. Go on, you. My dog came out to visit me. Go on. Nope, go out of my garden. Go on. Good girl. You're too big in here with that big old tail of yours swinging around. Hi, sweetie. So there we go. We got that planted now. And like I said, once you get that planted in there, you really just want to soak it. Get this thing completely soaked. So wet that it's dripping out the sides and even possibly overflowing the top. Just get it super wet. Now this compost is super absorbent. There's lots of wood material in there, so when you get it wet, it tends to expand a little and soak up a lot of that extra water. By having lots of extra wood pulp in your soil mix, every time it gets wet, it expands and opens up a little, and then it dries out and contracts. So what that does is that helps open and close your soil to keep it aerated. It helps keep it a little bit looser. That way your soil doesn't become bound or locked in. Allows the roots to work their way through it a little bit easier. We're just going to keep soaking this here, letting it all absorb in. Another tip when you're watering, tomatoes don't really like water on their leaves. So if you're going to water, make sure you water directly at the root. Watering on the leaves can lead to disease. It can lead to sunburn. Droplets of water amplify and magnify sunlight, and they'll literally burn little holes into your plant's leaves. So you don't want water on the leaves. So try to water directly at the ground. When it rains, tomatoes don't really mind the rain, and really mostly because by the time the sun comes back out, they're usually dried off, and they don't get sunburned from it. And also generally rain doesn't contain chemicals like fluoride and chlorine, you know, and tomatoes don't like either of those. Fluoride is poison, chlorine is poison, and they don't like it. So we water always with just rainwater. Our rainwater collection system generally collects enough water to get us through the entire year, throughout the year. We water with all rainwater. We try not to use city water at all because it has chlorine and fluoride in it. Fluoride is poison. Stop drinking tap water, people. It's literally destroying your IQ. It's making you dumber by drinking fluoridated water. And for God's sakes, don't buy that fluoride water for babies. Babies don't even have any teeth, and let me tell you, cavities aren't caused by a loss or lack of fluoride in your diet. Alright? Fluoride's terrible. It's poison. Call your city congressman and your representatives and whatnot. Tell them to get the fluoride out of the water. It's literally brain poison. So there we go. That's one transplanted tomato. And we'll check back in on this guy in another 2 weeks. And we'll show you just how big he's gotten. So as you can see right now, he's, you know, about 3 inches tall to the crown. And in 2 weeks, he's going to be 6 or 7 inches tall. Now this one, it's kind of late in the season already. We're already mid-July. So I don't expect this one to do much productivity. And the rest of the suckers that I have out here, I'm actually just going to cut off and toss them in my compost. I did this one today to show you guys how that works and how to transplant tomatoes, and you really want to bury them as deep as you can. All right, we're gonna go take a walk over here and I'm gonna show you guys the ones I did the other day. So 2 weeks ago, I transplanted some cuttings off of my tomatoes, and here they are. As you can see, 2 weeks later, look how big that is. In just 2 weeks. That's buried all the way to the bottom of the bucket, and up, up, up it goes. Same thing for this one. He's running a little behind on the other there, but this was also a smaller cutoff that I took, a little bit less developed. And of course you got the one in the back here. Boom. So there we go. Look how big those got in just 2 weeks. And they were a little bit lower or smaller like this one was, but they were a little bit more developed when I trimmed them off. So they definitely grew faster. But that's 2 weeks of growth, and they were, you know, literally right here at the top of the bucket. So if you only got one tomato plant, don't worry, it'll give you more if you plant it. They will come. Now our beefsteaks are doing great. Look at those. All right, so you can kind of get an idea here. Oh, and the sunflowers. Oh, you guys got to see this. This is the biggest of our sunflowers, and it's about 6 feet tall, give or take. And yeah, look at that, gorgeous. The other sunflowers are doing great too, but that's not what we're here for today. We are here to talk about tomatoes and peppers and cucumbers. So once you transplant your tomato, keep it in a relatively out of direct sun or as shaded as you can for the first day or two. It does need sunlight. You definitely want to give it some sunlight, but it's going to be a little bit tender, so to speak, or it's when you cut it, it wants to pull back moisture from the leaves. It's going to wilt. Not a big deal if it wilts. It will come back. But you want to keep it out of direct sun to keep the stress level down as much as possible during this transition phase. All right, so I'm going to go through here and I'm going to start clearing out some more of these suckers. There's another one. Like, that is a perfect transplant candidate. All right. Most of the time, suckers you can simply just pinch off with your fingers if they're really small. If they're not, I use scissors. And make sure you use really good sharp scissors. It makes a difference in the cut. That's another really good one that could be transplanted. This little one right here, we can just pinch that. Go right up the line here, boom, boom, boom. I don't see anything else on that one. And as you're going, I tend to trim off whatever leaves are below until I reach a cluster of tomatoes. And then that one and the branch immediately below it is basically what you want to keep. Anything else can come off. It's unnecessary. They can attract disease. The lower the branches are, the more likely they're going to attract disease, especially if they dip down and touch dirt. You don't want your leaves to touch dirt. So make sure you trim off your low leaves. So here we go. See, that one's done. There's another one that's got some pretty big suckers on it here. That would be a decent transplant. That was like the one that's really small over there. That's about where it was when I cut it earlier. Yeah, little one there, little one there. I'm going to take off these bottom leaves because they are not needed anymore. Literally take all of those off. Alright. Another big sucker right here. That was a good transplant candidate. Got a really big one. Like, this whole thing is a whole plant in and of itself. I let that one go way too long. But you just trim, 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 trim. And you could plant that in a 5-gallon bucket, and that entire stem will be a root ball at the end of the season. You would have a root ball 12 inches tall and 4 inches wide. It would be a monster. Now all of these have all been transplanted deep, deep, deep in the bucket. So at the end of the season, I'm going to show you guys what a seed planted tomato looks like, how the root ball is really small and right up towards the top of the soil, versus what a transplanted tomato looks like. And you should do that with your seed plants too. When they get about 6 inches tall, dig them up, trim off the excess leaves, and bury them even deeper. I didn't do it this year because I wanted to show you guys, I was planning ahead that I wanted to show you guys what it looks like to root ball a tomato plant. To really get a big root ball out of it. You gotta check really carefully because sometimes these little suckers blend in real good and they become hard to see. You might miss them. I do grow a large variety of tomato plants, so you do see some really tall ones, some shorter squat ones like this one right here. Real short squatty. There we go. I got some big ones back here. Take that one out. Yep, that one's pretty good. Got some dying leaves. Take those off. Take that off. There we go. Oh, there's one. I gotta prop this tomato up a little bit. It's leaning over, so we're gonna get him reconnected to our hole that it's growing on there. Now when it comes to tomato tie-ups, you have a large variety of options to choose from. My personal favorite is the rubber coated wire. Coated wire is perfect for this kind of stuff. There are the clips that you can get, and there's lots of other things out there, but a roll of this wire is like $3 or $4, and it gives you all the things you're gonna need. All you need is a pair of snips to cut it up, or you can do the bend method where you bend it back and forth real quick and it'll eventually break. So I'm gonna pull this guy up. We're gonna get him in position here. Now tomato vines are pretty flexible, and the plants are relatively hardy too. Like you can kind of abuse a tomato plant and they'll just kind of take it. You know, they're into that kind of thing. All right, so here we go. We got some more over here. Get those out. Maybe sucker in there. A little bit bigger one right above it. So that takes care of those. And our last plants down here, we've got just a couple of suckers to take care of. Suckers, runners, they got a couple of different names. I guess really with cucumbers we call them suckers, with tomatoes we call them runners. So that takes care of our tomato plants over here. We've got a bunch more over there that we want to deal with. But our next topic we're going to cover is going to be pepper plants. And this one's a controversial subject because it's a coin, if you will. People will say, you don't do that, that's terrible, you shouldn't do that. And then I'm in the market, or in the side of the club that says, clip, clip, clip. All right, so as far as pepper plants go, if you want to increase their productivity, you should top your pepper plants. And by top them, I mean cut the top right off. All right, so let me show you guys one that I did the other day. Let's see, where is he? He's right here. Okay. So I cut this one off the other day, about a week ago, give or take. Cut it right off the top. Boom, right there. There was a V, it was starting to form into 3 separate branches, and that's where I cut it. And as you can see below, it is going gangbusters, producing new branches. So this tree, this bush, is going to go boom, out and up. But that stops right there, and all the rest of the further growth upward is going to be separate branches. And each one of those branches is going to give us peppers, and lots of them. So let's look at this guy right here. Okay, as you can see, it's got flowers going on, and you can also see it has a split here and here. I'm going to go like that, and I'm going to cut that top right off. So now I have a topped plant that is going to callus over, it's going to scab over. And as you can see, it's already starting to send up new branches here. And cut those baby leaves off the bottom there. All right, so that's going to be bushy very soon. Do that to all your plants when they're about 8 inches tall, give or take. Leave a bunch of the leaves below it, and you can cut off the baby leaves, like these little guys right here. These are your baby leaves, your little sugar leaves. Take those off. And all the branches will come out where you have leaves coming off. And that's all you have to do to make your pepper plants more productive. You top them at about 8 to 10 inches tall, leave all the branches below, and they will go absolutely gangbusters. And we'll visit this back here again in another couple of weeks. I'm just gonna go boop, take that top off. Boop, take that top off. There's another good one. This one's starting to branch out. Boop, cut that top. This guy too. Boop, cut that top. That one's too small still. He's just a little baby still, so we're gonna let him keep growing. But this guy, we could cut him. And this guy, take those little baby leaves off, little sugar leaves. And we could top this one. Boop, right there. Same goes for this one. We'll actually come in and just clip it just a little bit there. All right, so we top our pepper plants and they'll branch out and become even bigger. You may want to put poles up for your pepper plants and start tying them off. They will get heavy, they will lean over. And before you know it, you'll have a pepper plant laying on the ground. Pepper stems, unfortunately, become quite rigid, so when the plant gets too big and they bend over, they will break. They will literally break. Boy, this guy is struggling. Look at this little guy, he's just struggling in here. That's okay, I've got more peppers going. If this one's not gonna, I've got more. And remember the other day I said the reason I bucket farm, one of the reasons I bucket farm is because buckets limit the actual size of your garden and how much you have to weed, because every plant is less than 1 square foot. So I have to weed less than 1 square foot per plant, which makes it really super easy. I come in, I pick a couple of weeds out, and that one's done. And you go down the line just like that. So same for this one here. Got a couple of weeds here. We're just gonna go pluck, 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 and that's it. That bucket's been weeded. Super easy, super simple. Here's another one. This is a good example here. We got a big Y split right here at the top. We're just gonna come in right underneath it and cut it right off. And there we go. Now that plant's going to continue to grow new branches, and we'll have a much bigger plant by the end of the year with more fruit on it. All right, now we're gonna turn our attention to cucumbers. So cucumbers, you can do a couple of different things. You can go chaos growth and just let them do whatever they want to do. That can be productive, and depending on the variety, you'll get lots of cucumbers that way. Or you can do the method that I do, and that is selective trimming. And I cut off most of the suckers, but leave a couple. All right, so for example, I had one earlier that I just clipped off. Was it this guy or this guy? Oh, shoot. I can't remember where it was. Anyway, I had a really long sucker coming off. And as you can see here, as we go up our vine, we come up, 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 and we get to here. All right. Right here at this crook is a sucker, and it's coming off. Got a fly climbing on me. Now, the main portion of this branch is up here. I don't need this sucker down here, so I'm gonna cut it off. We don't need this one. We'll go ahead and trim that one out. If you look behind it, there's another sucker right here. This one was a little bit lower down the branch. This one's coming up. I'm gonna let this one go because it's gonna fill this gap up here. That's okay. I'm gonna let it go right on up and let it fill that gap, because everything wants to go off to the east as they grow for whatever reason. And I've noticed this in my garden. As my cucumbers grow, they want to grow up to the east. And you can see very clearly that one's going up, 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 up. And they're all doing that. They're all going up into the east. Even down here, these ones are wanting to go up into the east. I got to do something about this one. It was so small and it wouldn't reach over. I pulled it and it's just climbing straight up the pole. But that's okay. Once it gets to the top of the pole, it'll go over the trellis. So now we do have cucumbers already growing in here, and they are doing quite well. Let's see, I know I had one. Yep, there we go. Got us a couple of cucumbers growing in there. See, right there. That's a low ground one. I'll put a piece of wood underneath it to protect it from the dirt. Just a piece of mulch, nothing special. All right, here we go. We got another sucker coming out here. We're gonna clip that one off. And then right behind it is another sucker. Going crazy here with suckers on this plant. We're gonna cut that one out too. Don't need it, we'll cut it off. All right. Now, the same thing with tomatoes you can do with cucumbers. When you see the suckers growing, and here's an example of one right here, okay? It's just starting off really small. You can pluck that before it even gets going, and that prevents that sucker from growing any further. You don't have to, but you can. I'm gonna cut this one out. It was doing pretty good, but we don't need it. Take that sucker off. And the other thing with cucumbers is the lowest of the leaves you should take off relatively early in the season. The leaves that are touching dirt spread disease, okay? They will pull disease out of the dirt. Cut those little baby leaves off, cut off your lowest branches, and anytime you see a cucumber leaf that starts to, I might actually have an example of one here. So you see on these leaves, they're starting to get that tan border, a yellowish border on them. If these leaves get worse and that whole leaf becomes somewhat infected, I'll take the whole leaf off. I don't even wait for it to get, a third of the leaf, even a quarter of the leaf. If it gets infected or diseased, I'm cutting that leaf off. We amputate to prevent further disease, period. That's it. There's no questions about it. If that leaf is diseased, cut it off. All right. Same goes for pepper plants and tomato plants. If a leaf is showing disease, cut it off. Dissect it from the plant, and you will save the plant any further trouble. Now here we go. We got spotting on a tomato leaf, right? All that right there, poop, gone. Same thing for its companion on the other side. We'll take that one out. Anytime you see leaves that have browning or yellowing on them, cut them out, get them off. They don't need it. If you catch it at the early onset where it's just on the first leaf all the way out at the end, you might be able to save that branch without having to cut the whole thing. Otherwise, just cut it. It's a lesson, just better safe than sorry. So we'll cut off some of those. Healthy is green, yellow and brown is disease. So, just so you know, like here's a good example of some of that. And we're gonna go ahead and take that branch out. Now, tomatoes don't always do a standard sucker. So what you can see on this plant right here, this one actually V'd. The trunk actually V'd. Whereas instead of that sucker growing tight out of the crook, it actually grew a split here. So I actually have two plants in one now, so to speak. And what I did was I trellised both of them. Both sides got trellised individually. So I have one string going on that one and one string going on that one. And as they get bigger and bigger, I will actually separate them and the two branches will grow in opposite directions. And this will give the chance for the plant to spread out and really, really be productive. So I got one string here and one string here, and they will go their own separate ways as they get bigger. So, now like I said, when you're trellising the way I trellis, as things go and grow, you just simply take and wrap the string around the plant, and that adds the next loop. Now as you do that, you will start to get a tight string, so you're going to get to a point where you need to actually take it down from top, unscrew some of the string from it, open it up a little bit, give a little slack, and then keep going. I do that about every other week or so. I'll come through, like it's been 2 weeks, so I need to come through and pinch suckers and rewrap lines to keep these things going up in the direction I want them to go. This one I actually have missed for a couple of weeks. So, sorry, I'm holding the camera at the same time and doing this is a little difficult. So you can see my string is all the way down here and the plant is all the way up here. So we need to get that wrapped. And hopefully, I don't know, let's see if I can get this set up so you guys can still see. Alright, I don't know if you guys can see, I don't have the camera in hand, I set it down. My little stand there. Alright, so now I'm too tight to continue wrapping around. I'm going to grab my hanger and I'm going to take a little bit of slack out of it. Or add a little slack into it, I should say. I'll hang it back up there. Now I got a little slack I can work with. And we're going to wrap. Now tomato leaves love to catch strings. For whatever reason, they become a bit of a pain in the butt. But you just wrap it until you get basically back up to the crown. Alright, now I still have a bunch of slack in here. Okay? Still have a bunch of slack. And that slack I have to take up now. So, right up here is my hanger. And I'll show you guys what these look like naked without any rope on them. So you guys, if you want to make some of your own, you can. Alright, so let me just set this back down again real quick. Now, I have a couple of different methods for when I need to take up tension or take up slack. You can wrap the hook, which I do, and you can also go around like that to take up larger sections with fewer wraps. The small wrap points, like here, are for when you need to make smaller, fine adjustments and you need just a little bit of string to get that last coil, but still keep your string tight. So, let's see what we got here. How much do I need to take up? Quite a bit, actually. Do a bunch of wraps of the small style. And there we go. So now it's still able to sway and flex, but it's relatively tight and it's not going to let that plant fall down. So do that every week or so. I come out here and you know, once a week we will wrap these up and make sure they're, why am I still so zoomed in? There we go. There we go. Okay. I'll make sure these are, you know, wrapped up and nice and tight. Trim out the suckers. And let's keep growing, you know. Same thing goes for the other ones over here. Now, a little side tip for everybody. When it comes to, now these are in the cucumber family, right? They're all part of the same family. Zucchini, squash, cucumbers, melons, they're all in the same family. As you can see, these are growing quite well, and they're doing very nice. I do have to keep going up as these get taller. I'll keep adding, you know, new tie-offs to help hold them nice and straight. But the summer squash is doing lovely. They're growing very quickly. Oh, I just lost my train of thought. What was I going to talk about? Oh, white spots on your cucumber and melon plants. If you get the white spotting on them, that's mold, white mold. And there are a number of remedies to cure white mold, but for the most part, as soon as you see white spotting on your cucumber or melon leaves and whatnot, cut that leaf off immediately. Get it off the plant as soon as possible. Don't let it grow. Don't let it spread. That white mold will absolutely decimate your plants. If you guys remember the mullein I posted up a couple weeks ago, it's now about 9 feet tall. It is absolutely gigantic. I'm gonna have to step back. All right, like, it's huge. It's absolutely huge. And not only does it have its main flower stem, but it's decided to start growing additional crowns to go with it. There's another one down here. I mean, this is just the most incredible mullein we've ever grown. And next year, I think we're gonna do more of them, particularly in a oh, what's the word for it? A landscaping style. We're going to include mullein in it because they are really neat looking plants, number one. And they get huge. That thing is 8 feet tall. Maybe even closer to 9. Let me see. I can reach 8 feet. That is almost 9 feet tall. That is huge. I am super impressed with that mullein this year. That lamb's ear. Absolutely incredible. 9 feet tall almost. So, but that's our tips and tricks for today, you guys. Tomatoes, make sure you prune out your suckers. And if you want, you can get more tomato plants. Like you can see this guy. Oh, look at that. Look, he's starting to wilt. He's starting to wilt a little, and that's okay. You totally expect that. They will wilt for the first day or two. And as long as you keep them moist and keep them in semi-sun, semi-shade, so they don't get stressed anymore, they will perk right back up, and before you know it, you'll have a whole new tomato plant. So, a little tip for your beans, make sure you harvest your beans every day, because a bean that gets left on the plant that turns brown and dries out, it will stop the plant from growing any further beans. So make sure you harvest your beans every day. That way your plants don't stop producing. And they can be sneaky. You gotta look out, because sometimes they'll put off a little tiny bean that doesn't grow very much, but it'll trigger the hormone response in the plant to stop producing because it browned out. You don't want that, so make sure you harvest your beans every day. And I just did that this morning. We got a few of them that were ready to go. So, tomatoes, peppers, cucumbers, melons, etc. Some tips and advice for you guys to have better, more fruitful harvests. All right? Thanks for watching, everybody. I appreciate it. Be sure to like the channel, subscribe, and we'll see you guys on the next one. Y'all take care.